Mary Ann's going to tell us something special about the fire in Long Beach.
Oh, yeah. So there's a special connection from Long Beach to the fire. There's a character we didn't hear about who was very important, who was the fire commissioner in New York City, Edward Croker.
What's the name? Triangle. What it says triangle fire? Triangle fire.
That's the first time
What
somebody
is the name of
can
it?
hear me.
What is
It's
the
the
name?
other way
Why
around.
is the name triangle?
Can you hear me now? Okay. So the fire commissioner of New York City at the time was Edward Croker, and Croker had warned that there would be something like this happening because there was minimal enforcement, no one was responsible. Essentially, to use Truman's language, the buck stopped nowhere in New York City, and was instrumental in testifying after the fire about the need for safety regulations, enforceable laws, fire drills, etc., and became, in a good way, obsessed with fire safety. After this, Croker moved to Long Beach and was named the Generalissimo of the Long Beach Fire Department. And he did two kind of funky things. One was he overhauled the uniform for the Long Beach Fire Department, and one of the things he mandated was black pants. And the reason he did that is because he and many of the other members of the fire department, one of whom was actually a very famous minstrel performer at the time. So there's an interesting history, like a lot of things in Long Beach. But anyway, they were pretty fancy guys and often went to dinner parties. So he mandated black pants for the firemen's uniforms so that if you were at a dinner party and got called to a fire, you didn't have to change your pants. So that was one thing. The second thing he did was he built an entirely fireproof house. And I believe it's on Edwards, down towards the boardwalk. It's apartments now, but it's a kind of funky concrete-looking house on the left-hand side going south down Edwards. It is still there. He built a totally fireproof house and then had a dinner party and had his guests in the dining room and said, oh, by the way, in the other room, I lit a fire. It's on fire, and we're not going to call the fire department because it's fireproof. And don't worry about it. And he did it essentially to prove the point that it was possible. No wood in the house, and other things would make for a totally fireproof house. And he was, this episode, you can look it up, was written about in architectural magazines and the like, and it was called An Orgy of Arson. And he went on to become, I mean, really an apostle of fire safety and would preach the gospel of fire safety. And there is a Croker Fire Safety Company out in eastern Long Island named after him. But he brought a lot of that here to Long Beach. So among other things, I guess we were the fire safety capital of the world for a while. City by the Sea and fire safety capital.
Thank you very much.
Just one comment on fireproof buildings or houses. The Ash Building, which the Triangle Shirtwaist Company was located in, was a modern, fireproof building.
And it's still there.
It's still there, which I heard this story about the fire from the time I was a kid because my grandmother's first cousin, Rose Oranger, was one of the women who jumped to her death from the 9th floor. So I knew the story growing up, and I assumed as a kid and into adulthood, well, there was a fire and all these people died, that building must be long gone. No, it's not. It's there at NYU, now called the Brown Building, used for science laboratories. And the building didn't burn, just the people and the materials and the furniture burned, not the building.
We visited the Brown Building in conjunction with we're doing 3 more performances of this. One is a week from today at Community Church in Manhattan. And then there will be a private showing with the HBO film in Manhattan. If you're interested in coming to that, see Lee, because it's by invitation only, but we'll be glad to invite anyone who wants to come. And then the last one is at NYU in the building where the fire took place. Actually, It's in the Waverly building, which was next to the Brown building, but now they're joined. And Helene and I had a little adventure there. We're doing it in room 220 in the music department. And Michael Beckerman, who's an old friend, old student of Billy Seameister, got us there. And when we were there, we asked the secretary, can we go up and look upstairs? And they said, no, you have to ask Michael Beckerman. So I asked Michael, and he said, well, don't ask, just go. If you ask them, I'd say no, so just go. So we went up to the 9th floor, and it's all locked. It's all genetics labs. And we got to the 10th floor, it's all locked. We went up to the 11th floor. Now, mind you, the Brown building is only 10 floors high, but the Waverly building is 11 floors high. We went into the Waverly building, 11th floor. There, the corridor was open. We went to this chemistry class there. We went there, and we looked down on the roof where the bosses and the survivors escaped to. And it was quite something. It's now covered with all kinds of machinery. You can actually see where it happened. So I'm hoping that if the cast gets there early enough on the 25th, you'll all come up and actually see it, see what you're singing about. Are there questions that either of you has or that somebody else has? Yes?
What were the 10 children that were in the building? Were they children of some of the things they worked for?
Well, there's a reference to 10 children who died in an incident where Judge Crane presided. I think that's what she's referring to.
Right, yeah. No, that's as much as I know about it. It wasn't the Triangle Fire in which the 10 children died. It was a, they died in a building that he had responsibility for, so that. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Well, the youngest was 14, right? The youngest of the victims was 14. But
Well, we'll get into that in a second. The fact is, though, that Max Planck did rescue his 2 daughters, who were aged, 5 and 12 or something like that? They were quite young, and his granddaughter still remembers him. In fact, we're hoping that she's going to come to one of the performances. She talks about him. In the film, in which Lee played a major role, she says, I love my grandfather, but I can imagine that if I were one of the women in the family, one of the women that died, I'd want to shoot him. You know, it was tremendous emotion on both sides. And we just learned the other day that the grandson and granddaughter of Stoyer, the lawyer, are coming out from California to the performance on the 23rd. So, yeah. Helene.
Somebody asked me before, a gentleman sitting in the back, why they named their factory the Triangle. Anybody have any idea?
It looked like a triangle.
I have a guess. Well, it's not really my guess, it's actually Michael Hirsch's guess.
Yeah.
I shouldn't, I'm sort of sworn to secrecy.
Uh-oh.
I won't tell. Go for it, Lee.
Is anyone familiar with the Freemasonry?
Oh, yes.
You know, they have the
Sure.
triangle as a symbol.
Sure.
The pyramid, yeah, but it's a triangular shape.
Absolutely.
Magic flute is a Masonic.
His guess is that they were Masons and that they named the triangle after the Masonic law.
Harrison Planck.
Yeah.
Since we mentioned Michael Hirsch, I've never met him, but I had very, very long phone conversations with him, and he probably knows more about the subject than anybody. He's the one that found the names of the unknown victims years and years later. I wish he would join us, but he's very skeptical about any adaptations of history, so we couldn't get him to come. But he was very helpful telling us about Harrison Planck and about the family members of Planck who died, and it was really extremely informative. Yes?
All the doors were.
No, the door to the 9th floor was locked. That's where most of the people died. Some people escaped to the roof from the 10th floor. The door was not locked on the 8th floor or the 10th floor. It was locked on the 9th floor, right?
It's not, the issue was the 9th floor, and there were two sides, the Green Street side and the Washington Place side. The routine in that factory was at closing time to lock the Washington Place door so that all the employees had to file out through the Green Street door, and their pocketbooks or bags could be inspected to see if they hadn't stolen anything. So that side was open, but that's also the side of the factory on which the fire started. So they were trapped, and
The fire and the locked door.
right. So I think, you know, that practice was very common, and I did a book once about garment in the 60s, and somebody I interviewed told me that in his factory in the 1960s, the doors were also locked for the very same reason. That industry was that was common practice. And even Max Planck was given a $25 fine after the Triangle Fire in another factory they set up for having a locked door. So, no, there wasn't the fire. He was fined for having a lock on a door, which was illegal.
I think, what caused the fire? What would be an ash, right?
Cigarette.
Cigarette. I think we have time for one more question. Go
Why
ahead.
do you make Sawyer a tenor? Usually tenor is the hero, or the romantic lead, and usually the bad guy is
Well, you know,
he's the bad guy in this one, but he's a tenor.
Being the bad guy,
I'll tell you why, that's a good question. The prosecutor has an uphill battle, he's fighting from below. The historian is the sleaze. And Tom is not a romantic tenor, he's a character tenor. There's a difference.
But he's not the good guy.
we're not working on it.
The tenor's not the good guy.
We didn't have a romantic tenor. I wanted to use Greg Mercer, you know, who was in our Rosalka cast, and I couldn't because I didn't have a romantic tenor part. There is no romantic tenor part.
But you gave the bad guy a tenor part. I mean, I would think.
A character tenor part, yes, yes.
I was just doing my job.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Tell your people, friends about it. If you just broke down, you know, any other sold out, and I hope to see you.